Ever since the fall of Rome, Italy was divided between lots of independent states, each with their own unique cultures, customs, forms of government, and even languages. For over 1,000 years, each state went its own way. Some built trade empires that extended across the Mediterranean. Many were dominated by foreign powers, and one was even ruled by the Pope. But there was no real call for Italian unification. People viewed themselves as Genoese, or Venetian, or Neapolitan, not Italian. Not yet. After the re-establishment of Europe's borders following the Napoleonic Wars, the largest part of Italy was under the control of the autocratic Bourbon dynasty, who ruled the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies in the south. The centre was made up of the Papal States, ruled by the Pope, while the Austrian Empire controlled much of the north, including the cities of Venice and Milan, and they held influence over several smaller client states in Tuscany. Finally, there was the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia, which controlled Sardinia and northwest Italy. That all began to change in the year 1848, when all across Europe, from France to Austria to Poland, liberal revolts broke out with the goal of establishing independent nation-states. In Italy, 1848 was the year when unification began. Sicilians revolted against Bourbon rule. Revolutionaries under the leadership of Giuseppe Mazzini and Giuseppe Garibaldi established the Republic of Rome and the Papal States. Austria's Tuscan client states wrestled control away from the empire and aligned themselves with Piedmont-Sardinia, and the rebels took to the streets in Venice and Milan. This, the first war of Italian independence, did not go well. The Austrians counterattacked in the north and retook their lost territory, even forcing the king of Piedmont-Sardinia, who had supported the rebels, to abdicate. In the south, Bourbon troops quickly put down the Sicilian Revolution, and in the Papal States, soldiers from Napoleon III's French Empire pushed Mazzini and Garibaldi out of Rome, strangling their young republic and restoring the Pope's temporal authority. The war did make a couple of things clear though. For one, the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia became the frontrunner to be leader of a united Italy, mostly because they were the only independent Italian state that actually wanted that to happen. For another, in order to take on Austria especially, they needed a powerful ally. So, in 1853, Piedmont-Sardinia's new king, Victor Emmanuel II, and his prime minister, the Count of Cavour, sent soldiers to assist Britain and France in the Crimean War, in the hopes that one of them would help the Italian cause, and one did. Napoleon III was eager to emulate the achievements of his uncle, and he saw pushing Austria out of Italy both as a way of increasing France's prestige and of growing her power in mainland Europe. It also helped that an Italian revolutionary had nearly killed Napoleon III in January of 1858, and he wasn't overly eager for that to happen again. Secret negotiations between Napoleon III and Cavour resulted in a Franco-Piedmontese military alliance, an agreement to work together to push Austria out of Italy, and to split the region into French and Piedmontese spheres of influence. So, Piedmont-Sardinia and France began to prepare for war with Austria, but the Austrians, seeing what was about to happen, struck first and invaded Piedmont. They nearly reached the capital, Turin, before French troops arrived, and the two nations forced back the Austrians and invaded their holdings in Italy. Soon, peace was reached, but it left pretty much no one happy. Austria lost about half of her territory in northern Italy, including Milan, to the Piedmontese, while her Tuscan client states revolted, briefly formed their own country, and then unified with Piedmont-Sardinia. They weren't happy either though, as the French had refused to push farther into Austria and allow them to take Venice. To top it all off, Napoleon III wasn't happy, as his goal of creating a French sphere of influence in Italy was destroyed as more and more Italians flocked to the Piedmontese banner. He did get a consolation prize though. Cavour handed over the county of Nice and Savoy, the ancestral home of Piedmont-Sardinia's kings, to France in exchange for further support. This angered the revolutionary Giuseppe Garibaldi, who was from Nice and was understandably horrified to have his homeland ceded to France. Nevertheless, he was loyal to the idea of a united Italy, and recognized Victor Emmanuel II and Cavour as its likely leaders, so he raised a group of young Italian volunteers called Red Shirts and invaded Sicily. He quickly took over the rest of the Bourbon kingdom, and despite his own desire for an Italian republic, handed over control of the land to Cavour and the king. By this point, Piedmont-Sardinia controlled most of Italy, and to reflect that, it changed its name to the Kingdom of Italy in 1861, with Cavour as its first prime minister. But the new country still lacked two very important cities. Austrian-held Venice and Papal Rome. So Italy made a new alliance, this time with Prussia, and together they invaded Austria in 1866. Italy performed terribly, but Prussia performed well, so Italy still got Venice, although the Austrians insisted on handing it over to France first, as they thought Italy hadn't properly earned it. 4 years later, Prussia invaded France in the Franco-Prussian War, and Napoleon III had to pull his troops that had crushed the Roman Republic a decade earlier out of the Papal States. Italy took their absence as an invitation to invade, and Rome was declared the capital of a fully united Kingdom of Italy in 1871. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more just like it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button right in the middle of your screen. Also, don't forget to check out more of our content through one of the thumbnails to the left. And as always, I've been James, and thank you for watching Super Easy History.